You're listening to the Vint Wine Podcast, where you'll hear interviews and stories from around the wine world. From writers and critics to winemakers and sommeliers, we'll explore the people and businesses who are instrumental in shaping wine culture. Enjoy the show.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of 5 Questions. In these quick conversations, we highlight the world-class writers, winemakers, and sommeliers featured on our full-length episodes in a quick 5-question format. We hope you learn a little bit more about the wine world and the people and companies that make it run. Enjoy. All right, we are here with 5 Questions with Lisa Perrotti-Brown. Thanks so much for joining today.
Great to be here.
We'll dive right in. Question 1, what is your role in the wine industry?
That is a good question. I like to think I'm a voice in the wine industry. I'm obviously a wine critic. I hope that I'm a trusted voice for a lot of people. I obviously advise and make recommendations on buying wines. Some can fall into that contentious fine wine category, and others can be just great value wines to stock up on. But yeah, I think that I'm a buyer's guide.
Question 2, what do you think is the most important issue facing the wine world right now?
It's how we communicate to people about wine. And I see that our world is evolving so rapidly from, for example, from when AI was launched and platforms like ChatGPT to now it's just being adapted and used by so many different people. Platforms like Amazon, Airbnb, and how people purchase products. And I think that we need to move with the times. We need to adapt with our consumers. Otherwise, we will go the way of the dinosaurs. We need to keep ourselves relevant, and we need to be speaking their language, and we need to make wine accessible and help people to find the styles of wines that they know and love, and in ways that they're used to doing it. As I said, like using Amazon filters or Airbnb filters, just to make it fun. You don't want to make it too dry and too onerous either. I think if I'm going to throw something else into the mix, there's other scary monsters like Ozempic breathing down our necks that we just don't know now that genie's out of the bottle, what's going to happen with things like that and people controlling people's diets, but also alcohol and wine and all of that. I think it's going to certainly interesting days ahead, like the Chinese curse.
All right. Well, those are a couple I haven't heard recently, so those are good to consider. Question 3, what is one wine region or two that you think more global wine drinkers should know about? And this can be sub-regions too within the greater Napa, say, or Bordeaux.
Sure. One that's certainly close to where I live and near and dear to my heart is the West Sonoma Coast, which is a relatively new sub-region of Sonoma Coast and Sonoma, where, it really is the cooler part of Sonoma. And oh my God, the Chardonnay is coming out. And even though they're not cheap, there's some good value ones coming out of there. They're right up there. Some of the great ones are right up there with the quality of white Burgundy at a fraction of the cost. So I think that's one area well worth looking at. And in terms of new old regions that I think are really interesting are areas like Kakheti in Georgia and Saperavi. I wrote an article recently about Georgian wines, and I first started going to Georgia 15 years ago, something, and the development that's been happening in such a short period of time is truly exciting, and particularly for grape varieties or their major grape varieties like Saperavi and Cazzotelli. Really interesting.
Great. I'm a big fan of both of those. Question number 4, what is one current wine trend you disagree with or don't like?
I really hate haters. I think that sometimes we, as an industry, we hate on each other so much. And I think there's room for everybody. Obviously, there's people who hate the natural wine movement. And I definitely don't hate the natural wine movement. Maybe those aren't my styles of wines, but I love that it exists. And I love that, there are people who are passionate about it. Or there's people who hate, the big, ripe, high alcohol wines, and then people who hate the greener, leaner, fresher wines. And I think we have to welcome the wine industry and its diversity with open arms, and just love that people are loving whatever style that they want, because that's what makes our industry particularly exciting, is its diversity and embracing all of the different factors of the industry. I think is something that we need to do.
Yeah. Yep. I'm aligned with that as well. All right. Our final question for today. What is one wine-related experience in recent years that stands out to you the most?
Wine-related experience. I think it's worrying days. For the first time as a critic, really, I've been visiting regions and tasting vintages, and I've been seeing a lot of worry in producers' faces. I'm thinking, and specifically one wine experience was tasting the Bordeaux primeurs earlier this year, looking at the 2024 vintage, which is an incredibly challenging vintage in Bordeaux. And it was like a perfect storm for Bordeaux, because everything seemed to be like coming at them all at once. And then there's this difficult vintage, and you've got critics and buyers that are there and the Premier's campaign was terrible. And I'm probably more affected by the difficult times. And that's why I'm naming this as an experience than I am the good times, because I think we are going through a bumpy road, not just in Bordeaux, but in the wine industry in general right now. And we need to start thinking about how we're going to get out of it. But also we need to be very supportive of each other and embracing of new ideas. And anything we when we look at Lafleur in this summer, opting out of Pomerol for their own reasons, things are changing in the world, and people have to change with it. And I think that's become my theme of the day when I'm talking. We constantly need to adapt, but we also, I think, need to support each other. And it was not such a nice experience being there in Bordeaux during the premieres and seeing the aftermath with the Premier's campaign. And I do think that there are ways that we can handle these situations and try and make things more positive in the wine world. It was a warning bell for me, I think, about the wine industry in general. And obviously they've been warning bells before that, but that was like just really in your face. And we shall see. As I said, it will be interesting days.
Yep. All right. Well, everybody go buy more wine. This has been 5 Questions with Lisa Perrotti-Brown.